Hello and welcome back, Hearthstone fans, to Hearthstone, brought to you by NECC underscore esports on twitch.tv. I am Coach Jim. With me tonight is Mick, and we've got WUB and Paperninja. East Tennessee State versus California Santa Cruz. East Coast versus West Coast. Mick, what's it look like we're going to see tonight?
It's looking like we're going to see a little bit longer games today. We've seen a lot of very aggressive kind of play styles with all these guys, but looking at the lineups tonight with, how WUB has his, corrupt paladin, how we got just lots of paladins, warriors, priests, lots of slower archetypes compared to what we're usually seeing with a lot of rogue, demon hunter, and, even regular hunter, things of the likes of that. So overall, we're going to see a lot more turn 10s possibly coming around when, they get the chance, if nobody's running that stealth rogue just yet. And just allowing the game to elaborate itself a little bit more and showing, a lot of intricate boards to come out tonight.
All right, we do have the deck lists. We do know that there's been one ban already. So Demon Hunter has been banned away. Our producer's saying something, I didn't quite hear him. We'll do a ban match as well, is what he's saying. But it looks like Demon Hunter got taken out. So on that side, we'll have Priest, Paladin, and Warrior. We do not know about the other ban yet, but those four are Warlock, Paladin, Mage, and Rogue. So one of those definitely going away. And it looks like they're getting ready to get into game here. Mick, who do you like here in game one?
In game one here, I'm really liking, Paperninja overall. We sit there while you're talking about him off screen. He's kind of back and forth, but also, I still have a little love and heart for WUB here because Paperninja on the ladder, he's had so much success there. I would love to see WUB kind of, compete on a competitive level and show, because on the first week we did see Paperninja fall. So, overall, he may still be doing well on ladder, but with the expansions, with new expansions coming in, with new standard sets coming in, with all kinds of different variety coming to the meta up here, coming pretty soon overall, especially with this month of new expansion being released, as well as a whole new core set coming out, you never know what these guys are going or how they're going to perform on ladder going forward. So overall, hopefully I'm getting to see WUB with his little Diamond 3 crest going on tonight, showing that his grind on ladder is actually taking him somewhere in the competitive stage.
Are they in game? Mr. Producer, are they in game?
Yes, WUB and Paperninja. Yes.
As did mine.
Yeah, WUB is actually running Demon Hunter, and Paperninja is running Warlock right now. So we're seeing corrupt Warlock against, just your standard run-of-the-mill Demon Hunter, which is, it's truly optimal. It's so aggro based. So, who isn't going to run it? You're not going to run big demons or anything of the likes of that. Overall, you do want to get that very early damage. You want to go ahead and get Warlock into a low stage with that health, as well as, with that hero power that Warlock has stacked on top of it. You want to go ahead and manipulate that as best as possible.
I thought Demon Hunter got banned. This is the ban match. Okay. Yeah. So the other ban then was Warlock. Obviously. Okay. So then the other ban was Warlock, because we were talking about the bans earlier. We'll see if I can get in here, because I cannot see what Mick is seeing at the moment. Mick, kind of talk people what's going through here, because I can't see it, and neither can the people at home.
All right, well, I think neither one of these guys are really seeing too much either, because as I was explaining how the archetypes match up, nobody really played any cards. Demon Hunter had a free turn one and all, but I think these guys are just throwing it for the most part, because nobody's playing any cards, interestingly enough.
So everybody's just going for late game?
Warlock has 2 Spirit Jailers in hand, and Demon Hunter always has his hero power to go with, so not exactly sure what these guys are doing here with this. Oh, Demon Hunter's now actually doing something. He's hero powering, and I'm not... Okay.
What do you mean they're waiting for? I can see half of them. I can't see Paperninja. Yeah, I have no... There's the eyeball. I had no eyeball. Yeah, I'm solid. I don't know what they would wait for me. I'm not worth waiting for.
Okay,
All
so
right,
now
so we won't be seeing Demon Hunter. We won't be seeing Warlock, which means we'll have Priest, Paladin, Warrior, and Paladin, Mage, Rogue.
yeah, so we were talking about this earlier, and I don't want to call you out on anything, but I kind of want to say I called that Warlock there. I want to say up front, I kind of did see the Warlock coming.
You said the Warlock was going to get banned. However, I said that if the Mage wasn't banned, the Mage was going to win.
Yeah, and that's definitely something to look forward to if it does, because I love seeing Highlander decks overall just succeed, because they're so interesting with every single card in your deck being different and having to capitalize off of those effects that some of these bigger cards like Reno and Alex Straza and things like that, overall just super interesting to see what they can manage with. And we're already seeing both of them being brought in already, so this is going to be a good start here.
Gonna be real fun. Alrighty. That is I was gonna say get rid of some of that. There was a lot of high mana cost in there. Coin though, always nice to see in the opening hand.
Overall though, both of these guys having Zephyrs off the bat, I think this is going to be the huge turn of things, because it's only a 2 cost, so really at this turn right now they could all decide to be able to use it if need be, which it looks like Paperninja is going to go ahead and try and get that. Nope, maybe not. He will actually be popping the Zephyrs right off the bat, which is very interesting. I think, when you're facing up against Mage, and especially knowing that you're most likely going to get Wild Growth with nothing on the board, so there's no real threats for the whole algorithm to detect that Zephyrs brings to the board, you do want to sit there and get that mana ramp fairly quickly, especially with Priest. He has that dragon in hand. He has the old big old whelp, so he is going to have a draw. He's going to have all kinds of things to work with overall, because he's looking to get those bigger minions. So Wild Growth popping Zephyrs up front was a very good idea, because Highlander Mage isn't all that reliant on minions. It's very Mage as a whole is very spell reliant. It's very good with controlling the board through his spells and through his secrets and things like that. One of them coming down right now being counter spell. So overall, looking for a way, and Paperninja may be able to pick up on this if he sits there and reads it, because in that case, he's not going to want to pop that Wild Growth.
No, he would not. But you gotta wonder. You gotta wonder, because it could be a couple things, a couple different secrets in that deck. Could be a couple things.
Which overall, we will see probably Paperninja getting the best idea. These guys see their deck list ahead of time, and he knows it's going to be a Highlander deck. So if he knows he's already gotten that counter spell off the board very early, he's going to be able to, going forward, he's not going to have to be concerned about it under any circumstances, unless there's some kind of discover factor that Mage brings to the board, like with an Arcane Breath or something in the likes of that, allowing him to discover another one of those. But the chances of it are a little bit very unlikely overall. So I think going forward, he's very happy to go ahead and get that counter spell away. I think Mage would have probably wanted to wait later in the game for something, if he could establish a board, maybe for something like, like a mirror, or something like that, like Soul Mirror, or probably something like Palm Reading, which would sit there and reduce the cost of all spells in hand. Just any other kind of idea, especially Plague of Death. That being a 9 mana if Mage does get a board somehow. So overall, a very weird start here from WUB, but he does get 2 more secrets down, so all he has to really do is just find a way to control the board that Paperninja's doing a really good job of putting down.
Well, and I really think that the counterspell coming out early is because they knew that they didn't have a counter for a lot of stuff going on out there.
Mm-hmm.
So they knew they were going to be playing a little bit later into the game here. So the early counterspell just bought them time. I think that all they were doing there was buying time.
So that's a completely fair assumption overall. These guys, obviously they're in the position to sit there and have the idea of these archetypes, these matchups, playing enough on the ladder. I would see possibly running a Shadow Word Death in this situation, because that Priest is going to be throwing out these large cards. And it really comes down to what he's opting for. If he's going to try and find a way to retaliate the board again, he's most likely going to go Animal Companion. But with Hunter's archetype, that's a little bit too aggressive for the likes of Mage, especially if you're not running something like a Secret Mage. You're running more of a Highlander. You want to play the tempo. You want to let those big minions get down. You want to let, the things of Dragon Queen Alex Straws or something like that, but he's not going to go with either. and opt for Mark of the Wild here to possibly trade in that 5/5 or push some face damage.
Well, and with the secret he's got down, that could be pretty decent.
Your mind is not your
Could be pretty decent.
Which, you know, that is a good point actually, because he's probably looking to do that, but unfortunately sacrificing a little too much for it. Because I mean, if I was in a situation, he's probably trying to get that rig fair game off, because we're looking at his hand right now. He has an WUB has an Alexstrasza, he has a Caligos. He's a little bit too much of like big spells right now. I mean, Jandis overall is obviously really good, but I mean, looking at every single one of these spells, he doesn't have too much to work with. It seems as if every single turn right now is only looking to give him maybe 1 or 2 cards on the board. So this priest is a little bit too overwhelming for him right now.
Just a little bit. Everything in his hand is too expensive. He's got a very expensive hand as well at the moment. And you know, losing the minion there, that's just a bad turn of events. Just a bad turn of events. They had the perfect secret down there with the taunting minion. It just didn't go the way they wanted it to.
You know, especially with how strong that combo is. I mean, he's gonna have to get that Zephyrs off the board comparative to that 2/4 the Acolyte, because I mean, overall, that Zephyrs is going to go right back up to 5 damage. So, I mean, that's a free 5 he's giving him, and he doesn't want to go ahead and split up that big ol' whelp just yet because of the fact that it's going to split into 2 more 5/5s, so it's just going to make things harder to deal with.
And that's not going to help anything. Oh, this is just going to go from bad to worse for WUB here.
Yeah, a little bit too much going in Paperninja's favor right here. Nothing wrong with that, because I mean, nonetheless, it is a Highlander matchup. We are going to have to see this mage again if WUB brings a comeback of some sorts. But overall, just a really sticky situation the man's in when you're looking at his hand. He does now have a 1 Thief, which is going to be very good for him, especially with this, you know, with this defender going on here, getting 6 health back on the board, as long as Priest doesn't have a way to remove that as well. But he's going to draw 3 cards here, possibly finding a way to shut that out and still get some face damage going on here.
And they were all low cost cards, which is nice to see when you've got 8 mana. Is you can combo off here, and only 9 health on the side of WUB.
Oh, that's huge. That Mass Dispel is huge. Okay, so yeah, right now it's looking like, yeah, Paperninja is just way too good right now for the situation. I mean, looking in rear view, when you're in that situation of mage against Priest, I mean, Priest overall is just super strong. That's why we've seen so many bans of him. We've seen him brought up a good bit of times, but more than likely he's going to be banned. So it kind of makes sense for him to opt for, you know, banning something else. But I mean, I kind of get the Demon Hunter ban and the Warlock ban, but overall, I mean, when you see something like Priest on there, he's super control oriented. He's always going to beat you in your own game if you're going for some kind of control. He does mage, he just does it a little bit better. It's not very offensive, the whole thing, and just behind mage, it's getting down some face damage, hitting minions with spells and things of the likes of that. But overall, that's the issue with mage as well, is that when you're looking at the likes of Priest, you sit there and let the game, the longer it's going to draw out, especially with these new cards that come in from expansions being so cheap and these spells being so powerful for Priest overall. I mean, I'm just not sure exactly what you can do in that matchup.
Much better starting hand here for WUB. Much better starting hand. As there's low cost cards that he can actually get out onto the board.
And Reno's also going to be very huge if he can sit there and elaborate the game a little bit, because when you look at the likes of Paladin, he's very buff oriented, very about getting those Librams down, doing things like that to make sure there's more and more for him to kind of play with overall. And keep in mind that this version of Paladin that Paperninja is running is a Libram Paladin. It's not the Corrupt Paladin which WUB has in his lineup. So overall, you know, if he gets those Libram downs and the Reno goes down by any chance, it doesn't activate those death rattles at all. So therefore, Paladin will not get those Librams back.
Oh, talk about having the perfect card at the perfect time. which is a pun, guys. It's a pun based on the fact that he had Zephyrus the Great. Come on, guys, follow along.
Right back to his expensive draws. What a shame.
Yeah. However, board control at the moment. Let's be honest here. It's board control at the moment. So this looks already a lot different than game number 1 with this mage deck. This mage deck running exactly how it needs to at the moment.
Yeah, it's a lot of really cheap draws. Zephyrus obviously doing really good with that Hungry Crab. We are going to see Paperninja throwing down these 1 costs as much as possible, find ways to get on the board. Issue is he got that labor kind of robbed away from him. So he's looking at right now and not having really much to deal with. I mean, he has an 8 cost in hand. He has 2 5 costs. I mean, he doesn't want to sit there and waste a whole turn specifically for that. He's going to try and get one of these minions to stick. He's going to get that wisdom off. He's going to get another card draw going down and just find a way to buy this game out because he wants to get that Libram of Hope down. He wants to put that in the Lady Liadrin pool, excuse me. But I mean, looking at Mage right now, especially, you know, that Reno is always going to be some kind of, you know, threat on the board when you can sit there and easily remove Divine Shield, minions, Death Rattles, everything it likes. I mean, even Reborn as well. All of it, it's just out the water.
And WUB just still with the draw woes as he's still trying to draw something he can use. And unfortunately, he has drawn another 10 cost card.
Which, I mean, when we break it down, that's not too shabby for him, though. You know, we're getting in these later turns right now, you know, and comparatively, he does have a counter spell to be looking forward to, especially if he feels like Paladin's going to drop down that Libram of Hope, especially seeing that now he's going to be dropping down that Wisdom. Overall, if he can find a way to trade out these cards, somehow manage a way to get these minions off the board, especially with this rigged fair game going on, then I mean, that counter spell could totally wipe out that Libram of Hope.
But that's what he needed right there. A couple of low cost cards. That's what he needed. The high ones are good, but you need the low cost ones to combo into them to give them even more power when they come out.
Mm-hmm. Especially looking at the secret jar right here, which is getting him a Flame Ward and give him that board control he's looking for. Because when you're trying to buy out this time, get yourself in a late game situation, especially with this armor vendor. I mean, it looks like WUB's finally found a little way to kind of suffice himself until those later turns with that 4 armor, with these secrets going on here. It seems like things are starting to play in his favor a little more now.
This is what I was waiting to see on this mage deck. This is the kind of game I was looking to see. A lot of control, the secrets down. I'd like to see more secrets down. I'd like to just be sitting behind a wall of secrets like, come on, do something. I swear to God, no matter what you do, one of my secrets is going off.
Yeah.
I'd like to see them all.
Yeah, always a good situation to be in, having a little Christmas tree of secrets there. But, you know, when you do have something like a deck tracker, there is a way to play around all of these. But when you're in Paperninja's situation right now with how little of a hand he has going on, I mean, at this point, you're not exactly looking to throw away your turn, but you're just looking a way to trade off the board, find ways to deal with stuff, because, you know, he's most likely he's not going to be running a splitting image. I mean, that's kind of out of it now. So overall, just looking for ways to control the board, get this hero power down, get the Libram down, use it possibly as a way to kind of throw out the counter spell if he feels like that's going to get thrown down. Just trying to suffice with what he has and balance out his hand as much as possible. But with this Dragon Queen Alexstrasza being 2 turns shy right now, I mean, there's only so much you can do to a point, because I mean, the closer it gets to later turns, it looks like the quicker Paperninja is going to be ended again.
And he's going to get a bunch of cards here. I thought he was going to get at least one more. Hold on a second.
It's for each trigger. It's for each secret that's been triggered, not for each one that's been cast.
My apologies. I thought it was 2 cards plus 1 for each triggered secret. My bad. Read it wrong. Read the card wrong. That's on me.
You're good.
100%. On me. I'm like, wait a minute. He's triggered at least 1. The card did math already. The card did math.
Mm-hmm. So that would have been for rigged fair game, and that would have been Flame Ward as well. Or no, it wouldn't have been Flame Ward. I'm trying to think of what the second one was that he sat there and threw down.
It was rigged fair game was the first one.
Actually, no, that's what it is. It's just that one. It starts with 1 card and then upgrades per. So, yeah, it would be just that one.
Right. And just that fast board position has turned around. However, one more turn and we're going to start seeing these massive drops coming out.
Huge right there. The acidic coming out when you're facing up against this paladin, you know, throwing down acidic swamp ooze is purely just board establishment at this point, because overall when you're facing paladin, you know most likely there's going to be something like, say, a Libram of Justice is going to be coming down pretty soon or at any time. Something like a Libram of Judgment as well, which, you know, gives you lifesteal, and it's a 5/3 weapon. I mean, maybe a little bit too hasty right there, but overall, I mean, when you sit there and have the likes of what you got in your hand, I mean, when you're looking at Alex Straza, a Caligos, a Dragon Queen Alex Straza, just all these super huge draws that you got. I mean, at this point in the game, especially with how many minions you got on board, I think it's safe to, you know, put a little more chips down and, you know, call it a day when you're in WUB situation.
There goes the counter spell. Still 2 secrets down though. So something you gotta be, if you're a Paperninja, you don't like to see all of those secrets stacked up there.
Yeah, especially against the likes of a mage, because you never know. The mage arguably has some of the most powerful secrets in the game, besides rogue, which purely comes off expansions. Mage, she was built for this from the beginning. She was very spell oriented, trying to get these spells down, these secrets down, find ways, you know, use your spells to manipulate the field, whether or not it's on your turn or your opponent's turn. So we are going to see the Dragon Queen finally coming down, and he's going to have just a much better hand to go by, especially with a Nozdormu right here and a Crazed Netherwing. That's just even more board control.
All right, so couple of little small minions there. Ooh, that's nice looking though. Nothing wrong with all of that. All of a sudden, beef on the table.
Beef indeed, but with this Reno, he's exactly what this man needed to get rid of that beef. To get to sit there and get a straight 8/8 hit on the man, throw it on a Nas. And especially when you're in Paperninja situation now, I mean, you're kind of locked in, it feels like. I mean, especially look at the hand he has. There's only so much you can do. He's going to be trading in these bear-offs. He's going to be doing, I mean, he's going to be able to establish himself some form of retaliation. But overall, now with the way he's sitting at placing down that 4/6, you do make your Librams cheaper overall, which is what he needed for that combo. But unfortunately, I mean, it almost feels like with that bear off, it's only a 3/2 would deal 1 on the board. It's not exactly, you don't get that AoE effect to it when you use those ping flingers for effect. You don't sit there and have any kind of control to, you know, charge a minion in or charge him in specifically. It doesn't seem like he got enough utility out of that, especially when you're looking at the likes of another dragon that costs 1 mana in hand. You're looking at the likes of a Caligos. I mean, you're going to want to use that on something like those relatively compared to the situation he was in.
Yes, no, would agree 100%.
Watch closely. I make everyone disappear.
And there we go.
There we go.
The old magic trick. The old, what is it? Chris Angel, I believe. Making
And
your
look,
board
it's
disappear.
gone. What is this, Vegas?
I mean, they're throwing on a show equal to it right now. I'm loving what I'm seeing. We're seeing a lot of late games. We're seeing Sprint, which actually is probably going to burn a card here. Astromancer and Key Warden. That is not good at all. You sit there and you have all these draws in your deck, and the two things you burn are going to be both legendary minions. Especially when Paladin is at the likes of 21 health still, and he still's got plenty of cards to work with, and you just threw 5 of them. That's actually huge turn right there. Paperninja can get the draws right here to switch this out.
I'm right there with you. Another big drop though, and we're still waiting for Caligos to come out though, and that could be really big.
Caligos would be big, especially when you had the likes of a rolling fireball in hand. I mean, when you're in a situation with that wand, You're thankful to have because it's paying back towards you. With after burning 2 legendaries, that's totally fine, especially when you get the likes of a 3/4 with that spell burst. I mean, I wouldn't be complaining at this point.
No. Absolutely not. And just going at it now. Here we go.
I mean, it's got a full board basically. I mean, why wouldn't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Give me the secrets. All of the secrets.
Another one, probably. Yep. I mean, just sit there, get all 7 down, buddy. Go for it. Put yourself in that winning situation. You lost that first one against Priest, but this is your time to shine. You know, you may have lost 2 legendary minions, but all in all, I mean, especially when you follow up those burns with a Malagos, I mean, you're looking pretty good in this situation. So overall, he didn't get. I will want to note one thing. When it comes to WUB's play last turn, he did not get the spell burst off with the Firebrand, which when you're looking at the situation of a minion who just got summoned, he's not able to attack this turn. So he probably could have gone for an Arcane Breath and gotten a little bit more utility out of it overall, especially with the fact that he wasted 1 mana, but I mean, it doesn't really matter. Man's got an Alex Strauss on hand, he's got a Caligos, he's got a Malagos, he's got all the Alagoses that can be thrown around. So I mean, WUB taking out the second game right here, 1-1 in the series, and it's looking like the only 2 we have left for Paperninja now are going to be Paladin and Warrior. So we're going to be seeing that again, as well as looking at going forward for WUB. He's going to be running Paladin and Rogue. So I'm really excited to see this Paladin from WUB here, because I mean, this dude, he's running a Corrupt Paladin. I saw this last week and it was really interesting to see. I mean, it's not the likes of a Ramp Paladin or anything, but it kind of follows the same exact kind of aspect. And we're going to see them play here and see exactly how much it can do for WUB. A man who seemed to, last month be unfavored, but now being higher up in the ladder, maybe his draws are a little bit better.
I just want to say, seeing the mage go off there at the end, that's what I was expecting out of that deck. Well, we were talking pregame about it. I'm looking at that deck going, no, this is what mage is going to do. And it did get a win. It didn't get the win first off, but it did get a win. So I'm happy to at least know that looking at the deck list, I was able to see good cards there. It didn't go the way I thought it would at all, but it did get that win in the end. Just had all the late game cards. You got to, I think they hit round 12, I think. It's just like, no, every late game card you could possibly want, WUB had. And it was one of those that Paperninja knew too. Paperninja's like, oh wait, no, they've got this, and that with 5 secrets down. Yeah, no, this one's probably done.
Yeah, and overall, when we're looking at this right here, I feel like when it comes down to it, this is going to be a very fun, early game for both of these guys. When you have the likes of a Gibberling, when you're in Paperninja situation, that's awesome to have overall, especially to have all these duplications going on. But also when you're in WUB situation, you do have that McGurgle, you do have a wand maker, so you have a lot of kind of ways to sit there and trade out these minions, find a way to kind of manipulate yourself, especially when you're looking at Nozdormu here in 2 turns to go ahead and get that 10 mana up. I mean, at that point, he can sit there and throw down on Dark Moon Rabbit, or he could go ahead and just establish himself a huge board, especially getting a free 8/8 off the bat.
I hear you talking, and I just realized that you were looking at their game, and my Hearthstone glitched out again. So I am jumping back in there as soon as humanly possible, and I'm getting in now. But yeah, you were talking about it. I'm like, wait, what's he looking at? I have no idea what he's looking at. I'm not seeing either one of them as observable. So thank you for letting me know how it was going.
Well, it's my pleasure. Yeah, it's kind of our job here in NECC. But when we're sitting there,
I had nothing. I had nothing on my monitor.
It's all good. It's okay. We all have our moments overall. But speaking of moments, we do have going ahead, throwing down his 8/8 here. Overall, just putting those 10 mana on the board, and especially, which is really good for him, he didn't have too much of a threat, albeit. When I was looking at his situation, I was having to look at that Dark Moon Rabbit, having to look at that Circus Amalgamation, having to look at that McGurgle, and finding ways to kind of decide what to throw down and how to exactly react. But when you have the likes of a Scrapyard Colossus now, like especially having this 10 mana so early at this point. I mean, we do see Paperninja with the Libram of Wisdom, but I mean, he can only kill it once, and at that point, you got to sit there and trade into 7 mana somehow. So overall, that draw is pretty huge for the man, and overall, he still does have a redemption he could run with it, but he didn't get it off early enough to be able to, you know, utilize it to his fullest extent, because theoretically, this man could have gotten 14-14 in terms of stats just off one minion alone, because when you consider the fact of how much health would have been debuffed from the Wisdom, but then also getting a duplicate of it, I mean, overall, that's an insane play for the man if he was able to maintain it.
You are still looking at these same 2 cards up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the game didn't crash on me again. We are still looking at these same 2 cards.
No, I wouldn't be too sure about that. We may not be looking at it. What I'm seeing is WUB drawing here, tip of the scales, trying to tip the scales.
Okay, because I'm I'm still seeing Scrapyard Colossus and New Fate on the screen.
Oh no. What's going on right now is that WUB, he just sat there and tipped the scales, and he has really good draws for what he's looking for. This man just sat there and pulled, he pulled 2 Fishy Flyers, he pulled 2 Crab Riders. He has a way to fully, for the most part, wipe out Paperninja's board besides 1 minion, which is huge for this man, because now he is able to get that Scrapyard Colossus down. He is able to get that redemption down if need be. He does have now ways to find, you know, the systems to put down these threats and find a way to wait out time and buy enough time for that Yashiraj to come down and find a way to close this out. Because once you get in that situation of Yashiraj, when you look at the likes of having a Darkmoon Rabbit, having a Scrapyard, playing into each one of those kinds of archetypes, I mean, the Murloc obviously wouldn't be all that strong, but when you're looking at something like Tip the Scales, I mean, it doesn't really matter overall, because you're getting a huge turn, which he just did right there, to clear such a strong board that Paperninja had established.
Alrighty, and thank you for our producer throwing me a clean stream, because for some reason my game decided to hard crash. So, back with you here, Mick. Because for a hot second I didn't know what was going on.
Well, you missed an exciting one, I'll say. That tip to scales was pretty huge. It did exactly what the card says it does. But still allowing him some time here on the board. Paladin doesn't have the best draws going on here for him. He's running out of hand space pretty quickly. I mean, you do have a Libram to work with. I'm sorry. I was thinking Labyrinth, but he does have a 4/5 with Divine Shield. He does have these 2 taunts on the board now, and he is going to be looking to put a little bit of the damage onto the 0/4 and make it a 1/5. So he does want to sit there and give it a chance to deal some damage, especially if he wants to, you know, he actually is in a situation where he needs to decide what to do with this Crab Rider, because it will be able to take that damage for it to die no matter which way it goes now. But overall, WUB is just looking like he's in a much better situation. The man has a high Abyss now. He has his Scrapyard. He has a Spectral. He has his McGurgle. I mean, this man's got a full arsenal of a hand. Meanwhile, Paperninja, the only situation he's in right now is just deciding when the heck he's going to throw down this Libram of Justice, because that is the only resource he has besides his Libram of Judgment.
Oh, I'm with you right there. And they're trying to figure out what they want to do here on WUB's side. If he wants to play a couple of cards or drop one of the big ones, that's the question right now. Board control going to be big here.
Is looking for a way. Interesting little aspect there to run the Wind Fury. If you know you're going to get these trades into the minions, I probably would have tried the red scale, so you could have sat there and gotten some damage on face when it came down to the Crab Rider. Get a hit on face, get that 3 damage there, then trade into a minion, because no matter what, you know it's going to die. So why sit there and utilize it on Divine Shield?
No, I agree. Then again, we have the advantage of seeing both hands, so we get to play with a little bit of extra knowledge. But I think I would agree with you on that one.
Especially with that red scale still being down the board. I mean, Paperninja at no point is it going to seem like he's going to want to trade into that. So therefore, you need to get your own kind of resources out of it. You need to find ways to draw a dragon if you need to, which that's a free draw right there if you switch it out for the Divine Shield. Even then, I mean, in that situation, there's kind of no loss to it, no harm, no foul, because I mean, overall, you're still going to be trading that spectral flyer. You're still going to get the trade on it. You're still going to find ways to let these guys live. But I mean, it's a 3 missed damage right there. But when you're in the shoes of WUB, I mean, considering the benefit that we have of seeing both sides of the board, I mean, it's looking like he's sitting in a much more comfortable situation overall. So I don't think he's too concerned about anything.
Well, and still has the 2 bombs in his hand. 3. To be fair, 3 bombs in his hand. So, and has bigger hand size than Paperninja. So when you have hand size and you have the bombs, you feel pretty good about it.
That was a mistake.
Brew Jailer giving him a little bit of wiggle room right there. He did sit there and have 2 3-3s, and then with that overall, he had what was 11 damage from what I counted. So it wasn't exactly enough for lethal anyways, but especially with this Lemur of Hope, that may be exactly what Paperninja is looking for in this situation. I mean, that would now, trade into the 7/7, albeit he would have a 7/7 to deal with after he kills that one. But, especially when you have something like a Dark Moon Rabbit, if you can find a way to clear that Divine Shield, I mean, you could easily trade that out and then get anything else. You could clear out that, that Silver Hand as well. But I don't think he's going to be ended up using it yet, or he may sit there and trade out the Red Scale or the McGurgle. I mean, he has so many death rattles to deal with that this deck, I mean, it's sitting in a really comfortable spot. So when you're in WUB's situation, especially considering Paperninja, WUB is actually probably at this point in game very concerned. Okay, never mind. When you pull out that Yashiraj, it kind of feels like it's over. But I was going to say that you see that Paperninja has held on to this card for so many turns. So you're trying to think of what kind of ace up his sleeve does he have working with here. He has held this card since the very beginning. He's sitting at 22 health. What is this card and what is it going to do? I'm looking at his deck list. I don't know what it is, but what is he trying to scheme here? So, I mean, when you're in the situation of with that Yashiraj, I don't think it really matters what kind of ace up his sleeve he has, because he's going to say, can you clear a 7/7? Can you clear an 8/8? Can you sit there and get rid of a 3/4? I mean, can you go ahead and get rid of especially like all a 10/10? I mean, come on. Overall, everything that you're dealing with in this situation, I mean, there's not really at that stage in the game. I feel bad for Paperninja, because I mean, it seems like he's feeling like he's holding on somehow, and he's maintaining himself and trying to find a way to make this out. But I mean, when you really break it down and we see these 2 hands, I mean, I'm just looking super high and mighty right now.
Oh yeah. Well, like you said, Paperninja hanging around, and sometimes you just gotta hang around long enough. Sometimes it's all it's about is hanging on long enough, but that hanging on might be over now.
And has now 16 damage and stats on the board. 6 damage to deal with. The most Paperninja could do in this situation is throw out that Libram of Wisdom, get one of those scrapyards off the board. But in that situation, you still got another 7/7 to deal with. So Paperninja's going to cut his losses, say, let's go ahead and give this another shot. I got to get this deck over with. Hasn't done me too well in these past 2 games. But going forward, I mean, at this point in the game, WUB is now locked down to what I believe is going to be his Rogue. So yes, as long as Paperninja this way going forward, if he can sit there and maintain that early game, survive that and deal with it, I mean, it's an easy win for him. He knows exactly what this Rogue is going to be throwing forwards, because it's the most straightforward out of all 3 that he has.
And it's going to be interesting though, if they can get it off early, and it looks like they have the starting hand, they could get it off early. It looks like a strong starting hand for Rogue there.
Well, looking at these deck lists, when you're kind of looking at Rogue's situation, I mean, having those 1/1s is great, albeit, but you're probably looking for something to get you a little more card draw. You do have that One Thief, you do have that Prize Plunder, but when you don't have the hand size to actually work with it and, play around with it a little bit and kind of experiment, I mean, you just have basically a wasted questing adventure, it feels like, because you don't want to waste that hand. when you're in a situation, I mean, a Foxy Fraud, a Swindle, a World Kickmaster, any of those kinds of things. I mean, even an Evil Miscreant, when you have so many 1-drops to work with, I mean, that's huge for the man. He would have probably loved to have something like that. So his prayers are now answered, and he's going to be getting a World Kickmaster here, which is going to work extremely well with the likes of that Prize Plunder and that Wand Thief, especially if he can get this adventure down first.
Well, and we talk about the fact that sometimes you just need to draw. Sometimes it's all about what the draw comes down to, and drew what they needed right there. So we'll see if it works out here when they get a little bit of mana. Like you said, getting the questing adventure down first. So threw some damage to face, and they're gonna try to get the combo down the right way.
Getting that Swindle as well. Huge plays right here. Lots of good, situations to be put into when you're in the situation of WUB right now. He does have a lot of resources. He just doesn't have the main to work with all of it, which is really bad because it doesn't seem like he has too much of a curve going for him right now. Having to waste that Wand Thief specifically just to get some stats on the board and trigger other combo effects and not even getting really any of those off besides a Swindle. I mean, that's not healthy.
It's a bit rough. It's a bit rough. But they're going to have a little bit more mana next round. They're going to be able to get at least 2 cards down. So they can start comboing then.
It's maybe the game that Paperninja was looking for, finding finally a matchup. If he can survive that early game, I mean, when he goes forward, if he ends up winning this by some chance, which he's looking pretty comfortable with, especially having that first day of school right now, having the stats on the board to kind of deal with those small minions that he's going to be throwing out. Only issue is he has a Restless Mummy to go up against, but that's only going to be a clear of 2 minions, especially with a 3/3 and the likes of a 3/1, which draws you 2 more minions. So, I mean, going forward, he's hoping that this game wins it to where he's forcing that Warrior Rogue matchup. I mean, and 9 times out of 10, Warrior's probably going to win that matchup. So Paperninja, he may have been playing for the not late game, but late series here.
Fair. Now, you talked about getting that questing adventure out, still in the hand, has had the mana to play it.
So a perfect 10 card hand right here. Now, yeah, you may not want to put that down, buddy, because if that ends up dying, that's going to be 2 draws overall, and that's possibly a card burn right there.
Got to be careful. We saw that happen to WUB. Now, it didn't end up affecting the end of the match, but we saw it happen to WUB early.
They leave Wisdom, finding a way to maintain those stats. Now, interesting, he opts to put on the Elven Archer here. And also really interesting, he throws down that Toxfin. I'm trying to consider what Paperninja's thinking here, because, I mean, when you have the likes of a Crab Rider in hand, you have a combo piece to work with. And whenever you sit there and consider, I mean, I kind of understand evening out overall the whole kind of, we need to get some even balance on the board in terms of health and all. But I mean, when you really look at this right here, Toxfin...
that's actually really dirty. That's really dirty right there.
There's
the recall there. That's dirty. They're gonna be able to combo that off next round.
What's even worse though here is when you're looking at Grabo. I mean, overall, that taunt, I mean, it's gonna die. It's going to sit there and give that effect to Amber Watcher. Whenever he gets 1 hit, he's going to die. Summon another Grabo. If he can get another minion down, it's going to give him that effect. Like, overall, this is the start of a domino effect that Paperninja has to literally search for a whole... He's going to almost have to use a whole win condition purely to get rid of that threat on the board.
Yeah.
We're going to see what he can maintain with it right now, because if he can get this Grabo shut down this turn, he's not going to have to worry about it going forward. He already sat there and knocked out, the Amber Watcher. So at this point, he's having to find a way where he needs to shut this down, and it looks like he's going to get it. Good play by Paperninja here.
There we go.
Well played. Well played.
Uh-oh. That could go really well there for WUB, though. That prepper.
Yeah,
That could go well.
at this point in the game, he does have a lot more to work with. He still has the likes of a Whirl Kick. He still has Janus in hand, which is probably just going to opt for, because I'm thinking the same thing as him. You want to go ahead and get this Janus down. You want to throw it out again. You want to establish the board somehow, because you want to sit there and force Paperninja to think about what's going to be a decoy. I need to sit there and find out which one of these are real, which one of these are fake. Which, I mean, the real one's probably going to be the Berserker, if we're being real here. But when you're going forward, I mean, you got to find a way to get the most out of that Foxy. You got to find the way to get the most out of that Whirl Kick. You have to find a way to ramp all that right off the questing adventure. So when you're looking at something like a turn 10, you'd be looking at questing adventure, you know, starting off with that, running a Whirl Kick, then running an Eviscerate, running a Prize Planner, running a Foxy. Any of those, actually your Foxy with one of those, excuse me, because of the discount that you get on that card. I mean, this man can use a whole hand, make that questing adventure at least a 7/7, and then giving him more materials to work with that master.
Yeah, and that's not even talking about what he's going to draw this next turn. Because they're going to get a draw too, and they've been drawing exactly what they've needed so far. And people talk all the time about top decking. You know, if you could top deck 1 or 2 or 3 things in a row, like a good hand becomes a great hand.
It will be amazing for this man if he can find a way to find that second Whirl Kick master, because if he can maintain and find a way to get that in his hand, he could play that as well in every single combo card he plays down. He could go ahead and get 2 of them as well, allowing him to get more swindles in hand, more prize plunders, finding more ways to just chain off of that, and, you know, find a way to just overall just completely curb stomp Paperninja and give him a full hand to work with.
Could get super interesting really quickly here.
Paperninja using so much resources just to get rid of these Janus minions. I mean, oh, what can he do? I mean, he's sitting there dealing with a really cheap hand, albeit, but overall, this man has used both times that WUB has played Janus, he has used at least 3 cards to deal with 1 minion. There it is. Here it starts now.
Yep. Oh no. Look at it go. Look at it go.
Evolving. Yep. It's a much better shot.
Yep.
Now, the Witchy-Lackey, this should be interesting. Is he going to try and get rid of... Yeah, you got to get the trades in there, dog. You got to use a prize plunder on that. You got to get something out of that Whirl Kick master. Then you have a weapon in hand, so you can trade into those, being they both have 1 damage. But opting for the Cobalt-Lackey instead, which I can understand. When you're in the situation where you have a prize plunder, I mean, that thing was about to do, let's see, when you look at how many cards, look at the little replay right there. That's 3, 6, at least 7 damage out of 1 prize plunder. I mean, you don't exactly want to use that on a 1/1. I mean, that feels like overkill. So, you know, well played by him. A good shot right there. And, you know, when going into forward turns, we see he has the likes of a head crack. He has a coerce. He has devolving missiles. I mean, this dude's got plenty to work with. And I don't think he's complaining at all.
And Paperninja, a full hand, but it's not a lot more than just shumpy minions. There's not a lot of big over there except for the Libram of Hope. This is gonna get interesting though. This is gonna get interesting, I think, here. Before it gets boring, it's gonna get interesting.
I mean, nothing's wrong with that though. I mean, when you're looking at the likes of it, Libram of Hope, especially with the large heals he's got, I mean, Rogue could develop a board all day, but I mean, when you sit there and deal with it, you need to find a way to get rid of that questing adventure now that that's down. But besides that, finding a way to, I mean, when you're only dealing with all these minions that only have about, you know, 1 or 2 attack, that's not all that threatening. So this man has all day to kind of look for those resources, finding things to deal with. But it's really interesting the situation that Paperninja's in, where he's kind of got to be frustrated with the shoes he's in right now, having to look at, you know, when you have a whole handful of one mana things, and now drawing another Murloc. I mean, this isn't a token deck. This is not an aggro deck. This is a long range tempo, kind of mid range deck. So when you're sitting in the life of having to deal with so many cheap minions and nothing else besides that, I mean, that's just got to be super frustrating.
Oh yeah. Let's be honest though, Paperninja playing this really well with the resources that they have. There's nothing wrong with the way they're playing the hand. The hand itself just isn't the best that we've seen.
Yo, there's something. There's a Lady Liadrin. There's a Libram of Justice, or of Wisdom, excuse me. This is exactly what Paperninja wants. This is the situation in the game. It finally starts rolling. The tides start going in his favor. He has a 4-cost, put everything to 1 health. I mean, in this situation, I mean, that would have been really nice against that Questing Adventurer. But, I mean, you can't complain. Better late than never, as you said earlier. So, I mean, This man, he sits there. Now he has a Libram of Hope as well. He has another Libram of Wisdom in his hand. I mean, he's got plenty to work with at this stage. He just has to find a way to buff all these minions, get a Liadrin down. I mean, and this man could be sitting at a Silverhand Recruit with, like, maybe sitting at, like, 9-9 for the rest of the game if he can find a way to discount these Librams again.
Yes. Gonna drop the Libram of Hope, though.
Good call, good call.
The health restore there really gonna help because a lot of resources were just spent by WUB to get him low. So the health restore there are gonna be big.
Now understand what he's looking at here. He considered trading, getting that Broom down, and finding a way to trade that 8/8. But when you're in this situation right now, you know that he probably, you know, WUB isn't working with too much at this point. He does have, you know, these combo pieces and all, but, and, you know, that Secret Passage being great for him, but considering the situation that Paperninja's in, you know, looking at, he was probably unfavored for most of this matchup until he finally got these draws he needed. He can actually play defense correctly instead of, you know, very haphazardly dealing with what he has. So he's looking at possibly developing a huge board next turn and finding a way to get trades on these minions to where Rogue is in a situation where it feels like his hand is just going to be some kind of means of control.
And Secret Passage into a Secret Passage?
I doubt it. As fun as that'd be to see.
Yeah, it'd be really fun to watch. It'd be fun to watch. They still got 3 mana, they could.
Wow, that's tough. Knowing that, you know, Paladin, you're trading your face right there. You're trading some of your own face damage to sit there and deal a little extra to his. I mean, now he can just throw down a whole nother Libra Hope, buff out all the damage you just did to him, restoring that 8 health and getting another 8/8 on the board. I mean, what can you do right there? That's rough.
You just got to keep playing the game. Just got to keep playing the game.
Which he does also have a Libra Judgment now. So if he can find a way, if he goes ahead and throws on this Libra Hope, he's going to be able to corrupt that Libra Justice. Find a way to, you know, get some more health on the board. But instead of looking like he's going to do a little bit of board control here, which all in all, never hurt anybody. You know, well played by him, but he's going to get a Libra Hope down nonetheless.
I have plenty of mana. We've reached the point of the game where nobody's hurting for net mana at this point.
It really just comes down to how many cards you have in hand and how many you can draw. So, you know, Rogue using one of those Secret Passages, that's really going to deficit him overall. And Paperninja dealing with such a large hand and just, you know, sucking up what he had for most of the game. I mean, this is where the tides turn in his favor.
Yep. WUB not out of it yet, though. Not out of it yet by any stretch.
Interesting though.
With 2 of its race and a prize plunder, you can get rid of the Ancient Guardian.
But that's his whole hand for 1 minion. When you're looking at Paperninja's hand, I mean, if he didn't trade that earlier, but this is what he needs right here. Every single minion that dies, he draws a card. So he has a lot of low cost, low health minions for him to play with right now, and to get a lot of card draw.
Ooh, that's the card he needed right there. Am I incorrect?
Okay. Well, to an extent. Now, keep in mind, Flick Skyshiv does get rid of every copy of the card. But when you're considering Paladin, I mean, it even includes the ones in deck. But looking at Paperninja's hand, I mean, the most he can do is get rid of those ping flingers, which would help him out a lot. But when you're in his situation, that isn't really, I mean, you're not going to let ping flingers stick to the board. So when you're in this situation, you have to think about, I mean, when you're in Paperninja's situation, you want to get rid of that questing adventurer first off. You want to get rid of that cult master second off. You know, those kind of have an equal priority to them. But overall, you're finding ways to where you need to control this board because, I mean, he doesn't, at this point, Paladin doesn't have all that many minions to work with. He doesn't have all that many cards to work with, and neither does WUB. But overall, you have to find ways to get yourself to turn the board in your favor. You know the cards are running low, and you know that Flick would have been great earlier, don't get me wrong, when you know you have these minions that are going to discount these Librams. But in this stage in the game, he doesn't have too many duplicates left overall, so therefore it's not going to benefit him all that much.
But being able to destroy a minion though is still, even if you don't destroy the copies, being able to destroy a minion itself is still really good when you're looking at board control and when you're looking at getting rid of something with pretty decent health. Like as he is right here. You know, just getting rid of a 4/7 is just kind of nice. You know, you get a 4/4 out. That's all I was like. It's board manipulation. That's all. The copies are great. Don't get me wrong. Getting rid of the copies is great, but getting board control back is even better, in my opinion, this late in the game. Because I felt bad because you're making that huge point about, oh yeah, it would have been great to get rid of the copies earlier. Yeah. I'm like, I just like it that I can get rid of a minion right now. Yeah.
A very minimalistic look at it, but you know, positive nonetheless. Glass is half full on that side.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, is it the perfect card? No. Does it help you? Absolutely.
Okay, there you go. Now he's picking up WUB. I mean, as much as I hate to say it, it's looking like Headcrack is, for the most part, his win condition. When you're looking at Lady Liadrin, when you're looking at all these Librams he's going to be able to generate and get, and all these buffs overall, I mean, he does have a little bit of minions on board right now, but he has to get damage on that face, and he needs to hurry it up before these Libram hopes start coming in. When you had the likes of 2 Eviscerates, I mean, that World Kickmaster is really going to be able to help that out. But if you can sit there and find a way to chain Eviscerates or chain Headcracks, you have to purely deal with what direct face damage you have to win this game. So if we're looking at it right now, he does have a weapon in hand, which is going to be a one damage with that dagger. It's going to be 9 with those 2 Eviscerates, and it's going to be possibly 11 with that Headcrack. But with the Libram Judgment coming down, that's going to slow. That's going to slow him down a lot, and especially only having 1 card left. I mean, that's looking like, well, this ain't going to be able to pull this out.
It'll get interesting, that's for sure. Secret passage there as well, so they can, if they know what's left in their deck, they can throw this away and go for that secret passage.
But she only has 1 card in deck, so I mean, that's gonna be a really good card for this man.
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. We don't know what it is. We don't know. It could be a great card. We don't know.
Where do you use this nitrous poisons? What do you have to do with at this point, WUB? And even then, the likelihood of it being drawn isn't exactly, you know, he has to use that right. Because if it's a combo piece per se, he has to utilize that secret passage. He's only going to get the 1 card from deck. I mean, so he's going to sit there and be stuck with one card after that.
Do you shadow step the flick?
No, looks like WUB just is going to concede it.
See, I was looking at it that the flick, because of the base ability, just being able to get rid of a minion, I'm looking at it like, do you attack with it and then shadow step it back to your hand and then replay it next turn?
Yeah.
That was my thought. Just purely on the fact that it can get rid of a minion. And as we said, that's not the greatest thing ever. The better part of the ability is getting rid of all the copies. But that late into a game, you know, just getting a minion off the board, getting yourself some board position, not terrible.
Shall we dance?
However, like you were talking about earlier, they know what their opponent still has to play. They have the deck list. They have the listing of what's been played. So probably in their mind, they knew exactly what Paperninja had.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, especially when you're in the likes of WUB, I mean, don't get me wrong, he had to find a way to get a lot more early board aggression. That's what Rogue relies on. So when you're looking at it, I mean,
this could get interesting. Apologies for interrupting you there. With two preparations, they could do a lot here. There's a lot which could be played. This could get real interesting really fast.
Now, looking at it though, Warlock, he already has 7 armor down. He's going to have a lot of board control here when he has the likes of, say, a Brawl, if Rogue finds a way to, you know, establish the board a little bit, which, looking on his side, he doesn't have too much to work with. He does have a lot of combo pieces, which will help him, but he can only get so much out of that World Kick Master. You know, Warrior does have a Stage Dive. He has a Bloodsworn. He has a Risky Skipper. He has a lot of pieces for a combo, which he can't exactly complete yet. Which, when you're in that situation, I mean, right now, until he draws these next 2 cards and, you know, finds something miraculous to work with, it looks like he's going to be stuck with a Risky Skipper and a Bloodsworn, just finding ways to, you know, give minions, you know, the likes to survive. Now, he does have a Stage Dive, but Lord knows what he could draw with that.
I'm just looking at WUB's hand. I like WUB's hand. He's got the ability to throw some high-cost cards out early.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there's a lot of high-cost cards in that deck, but he has the ability to get them out early, and if he could get them on the board with board presence, it could be good.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because he definitely has board presence right now.
As long as they continue it.
Yeah, and you just gotta. I think you gotta get stuff out there. You gotta get going.
Especially when you're in the hands of having a Colossus of the Moon to work with. Overall, I mean, this could be a domino effect where the dominoes only get bigger the longer down the line you go. So if Warrior can find a way to stop this pretty early, which he does have a Brawl in hand, he really has to make the tough decision of deciding, when exactly do I want to use this to get the most out of it? Do I want to sit there and destroy a bunch of, you know, 1-2s, 1-4s, and a 3-2? Meanwhile, when I could sit there and possibly later to see something, because if he goes ahead and uses that Brawl, I mean, you never know when you're going to get another one. So when that Colossus of the Moon comes out, he's got to have a Coerce or something to deal with it. And Lord Barov may be the saving grace that he wanted for it.
Gonna have to see some cards get played next turn by WUB, as their hand is getting fairly large. Still plenty of board presence here for WUB. Trying to dig through that armor, though.
Now, will the World Kick come out here? Most likely not. I'm very tempted to sit there and throw it at myself. But, you know, when you're dealing with the likes of what you need, you're looking at very small kind of plays right here. So, Spellbender will probably be pretty good. Blizzard, which, I mean, you're not too stressed about, especially with, you know, you haven't seen any pirates yet, but you know he's running pirate. I mean, Blizzard would be a good option. Grand Finale is just kind of out of the board because you don't have really any elementals to deal with. So he's looking at the likes of Blizzard or Spellbender, and playing into Rogue, Spellbender is probably going to be the best option.
Getting it down with the preparation. And haven't gotten past the armor now. They got some damage going down now.
Mm-hmm. Now, this may be the situation where Paperninja is considering this brawl because he knows that he's getting a lot of damage onto himself. He's not exactly doing as much as he wanted to. Or, you know, a risky skipper would also be a very solid decision at this point with that Barov combo going on here. Now, with
this gets interesting now.
Yeah. That's the whole situation I want to point out about this rogue deck. You never exactly know the situation you're going to be in. You sometimes will play into a little bit of aggro, a little bit of token, kind of playing into that board control and finding a way to just steamroll yourself onto that board. Because you never know what you're going to be dealt with. You know a lot of rogues cards are going to be cheap, but you never know when a really large curveball is going to be thrown at you like a Colossus of the Moon. Because when you're so used to dealing with all your cards being around from 1 mana to 5 mana, when you get something any larger thrown down than that, I mean, that is just a really big play that you're not exactly trying to go for. Now, he may shadow step this World Kick right here if he doesn't want to get that cleared early. Because when you look at the likes of Warrior, he's very board control based. So he's going to opt for it safe, let that World Kick come back to hand. So next turn, he's going to have 2 World Kicks in hand. Or he's just going to, oh no, he's going to use both Shadow Steps in this situation. Really interesting to see when he knows he still has a Jandis somewhere in his deck.
Yeah, very interesting. However, some beef on the board. Definitely some beef on the board now.
Warlock, I'm sorry. Warrior always has an answer for that though. Beef. Warlock is, or Warrior. Man, why do I want to keep saying Warlock? Excuse me. I'll sit there and chastise myself for that later. But, you know, Warrior's all about beef. The man, he just sits there and builds armor. He becomes beefy. He throws down 9/9s, 10/10s, all of which have these huge effects going to him. Being beefy, I mean, the man is the beef master. So when it comes to dealing with beef, this dude's going to squash it fairly quickly and pretty swiftly. He's usually going to use only 1 or 2 cards to deal with those kinds of threats. So, you know, that's exactly why I was opting to get that World Kick off, because when you know he has those kind of AoE effects, the things of likes of a risky skipper, a brawls, and things like that. I mean, overall, I mean, you don't want to sit there and keep anything too important on the board for too long. Which is why exactly I'm still trying to question why he would get both Shadow Steps off with something like a Jandis available.
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you. In a match like this, though, like trying to keep board position for Rogue is important, though. And if you think you've got a plan in your head, sometimes you just got to go with what feels right. You know, you can't always plan ahead, but you can go with what feels right. And these guys have played the game long enough. You know, you get that 6th sense about what's going on.
Spin like the sun, strike like the wind. Spin like the sun, strike like the wind.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
This is our town,
Okay. They can go ahead and get that backstab out of hand, clear up a little bit of hand space onto that 1/3, trade the Titanic Lackey into it, or just go ahead and opt for a brain freeze, get that off the board. Issue is, when you look at that, I don't feel like you could have gotten as much out of it when you're looking at going forward in terms of your turns, because now you have a full, like, you have 9 cards in hand, and you know, next turn, say you have another combo piece ready, that's going to steamroll pretty quickly. Oh my goodness.
And as you talked about Warrior just having an answer for everything. Answers all the way across.
Now this man in 1 turn just went from, keep in mind, 9 damage or 9 health left to beef.
29 armor.
That's
dirty.
why he's the beef master.
That's dirty. So dirty.
Goodness gracious.
I mean, I don't think any of those are great, but I don't think any of those are great. We've seen better.
Yeah, which I mean, when you're in the situation of Rogue now, you just realize that he used a lot of his combo pieces. He used both Blood Sworns. I mean, he used all of his Armor Smiths, and he used an Armor Vendor. So when you really look at it, I mean, when you're dealing with cards that generate armor, he just sat there and casted 2, 4, 5 out of 6 of his armor pieces overall. So he can't sit there and replicate the Rattle Gore anymore. He had to use it for health. So if you have enough materials to deal with and find ways to end off these minions and still establish yourself, especially without the likes of a World Kick now, I mean, WUB could still very likely do a lot. But issue is he still has to look at that big factor in his hand, which is a Colossus. I mean, it's a large card. I mean, it's there in front of your face. Overall, he has to put that down eventually because he needs some kind of big card to throw down pressure and put Paperninja in a situation once again where he's thinking, how do I deal with this? Because we saw that it almost went to fatigue last game. So you want to find a way to deal with that. And now that you have a Rattle Gore on board, I mean, that Rattle Gore is going to be able to trade into that and then theoretically kill it if he has any kind of more damage in his hand, which is looking like he does because, I mean, he's Warrior. And then at that situation, when you have Rattle Gore, it's going to come back as an 8/8.
Yeah. Gonna get interesting to see what happens. Got what they needed, though. They got kind of what they needed out of that card draw. All right, not perfect by any means, but nothing in the world is perfect.
This is where this Warrior even gets more and more. This is the issue that you have with Rogue, especially World Kick Rogue. Like I said, there's so many different options that you need to take to it that you have to find a condition and stick to it. If you're going to play those World Kick early, you need to find a way to go ahead and win the game early. If you're going to play them late, you need to find a way to set yourself up for a late game win condition. And WUB just hasn't found a side to stick to yet to be able to put some minions on board and be able to continue, especially against the likes of Warrior. I mean, that's a super hard situation to deal with. He does find answers, but he's always utilizing so many materials. I mean, look at this. He's drawing 2 more cards right here, a little more card draw. He only has 4 cards in his deck. So he didn't set himself up for the late game as well as he wanted to, especially when we saw that Warrior just gave himself like 29 armor out of nowhere. So overall, I mean, when you're looking at this matchup, you have to win that early game because late game against Warrior is not an option. So therefore, I think WUB is kind of realizing this at this stage in the game and doesn't exactly have too much to deal with. I mean, Jandis being great, don't get me wrong, but consider that he didn't sit there and get as much out of it because he committed to the early game with those World Kicks by using both Shadow Steps on it.
Very true. Very true. Once again, I like seeing the flick though. That could answer some problems. Not great problems, but some problems. And now you got choices to make though. You know, do you drop your 10 drop? No, it's just gonna be the flick.
Just not enough. Flick does not interact like that, buddy. I'm sure you wished it did. We were kind of hoping it did as well, but it's not exactly enough.
Not quite. However, I mean, it's gonna be interesting though. Gonna still be interesting. They've got pieces. They don't have it all. They've got pieces.
Now, in this stage in the game,
just too much armor.
Yeah, and that's all Warrior really comes down to, especially when you have a Shield Slam in hand. You have 2 Brawls in hand now. You have every single resource to keep this board for all. That was a good play, but still just not enough when you have so much in hand to deal with. Now, this man has Warrior easily has 4 turns worth of board control. And when you're looking at the fact that WUB only has 4 cards in deck in this stage, and he has another Bloodsworn thrown down on this Rattlegore, I mean, overall, I mean, you just, there's not much you can do.
Nah.
And I think WUB
Not
notices
much
that.
at all. Yeah. It was unfortunate. They had the board control earlier. They just weren't able to do enough with it. And Paperninja played it really well. Paperninja played it super well. That waited till they got low on the health, waited till a lot of the combo was used, and then said, "Oh, by the way, you have to kill me twice."
Mm-hmm.
I think really well played by Paperninja.
Yeah, and that's exactly, you know, if this whole thing kind of feels like preordained when you really break it down. When you consider the fact that when you're going into these bans and you're looking at things, I know you mentioned the mage. We discussed the fact of how strong it will be in one of those matchups, but as soon as it's gone, he has something else to deal with. You have Paladin in that matchup, which is very kind of half and half, but you really have to consider when you're breaking it down, what is the last matchup I'm going to have to deal with? Would I rather it be a control warlock, or would I rather it be a rogue? Now, when you're looking at Paperninja's decks, as I wanted to mention earlier, he sat there and, you know, when you think about it, this man had the likes of a Rattlegore when it came to Warrior, when it came to Priest, you have a lot of big minions, things like that. That's exactly what that Warlock plays against, and that's why I feel like that's why he banned it up front, because when you have Ticketus, when you have Yashiraj, when you have all the cascading disasters, that's just removing minions from the board, and that's like, instead of how that flick got so easily rid of Rattlegore, I mean, it's sat there, you have technically like 10 of those. So overall, I mean, that's exactly what he was looking for. And overall, he wasn't looking for just the late game of matches with the way his games were set up. He was looking for the late series as well, considering what games can I get rid of to put him in a worse situation where I could possibly win this series.
And I think the Warrior going against the Rogue was just the perfect deck to counter it, like which is basically the short version of what you were saying. So I'm just going to agree with you on that one, because you said it well, and there's no reason for me to rehash it. Unfortunate, WUB played well, just didn't have it in the end. Yep. And Paperninja played it well, like played the game well, wasn't worried about the board control, just sat there and said, I'm just going to wait and stall and play my game, and then, hey, look, I have every piece that I need. Yeah,
and once again, you know, by no means is WUB at fault here. You know, when you're sat there and dealt with the draws that you had, he had a lot of moments where he had a lot to deal with, and a lot of moments where he didn't have too much to deal with. You know, Paperninja may have been in a couple situations where he had even less to work with than WUB, but when you're playing that road deck, when you're playing World Kick, we've seen it so many times. It does so well against these small minions and these small little encounters when you have a lots of, you know, small stuff to deal with. But when you're looking at facing the likes of Control, or when you're looking at like against a Paladin and a when you're looking at a Paladin and a Warrior, overall you have to aim for that early game, because Rogue, he is not built for big engagements. He is not built to go ahead unless you have any kind of destroy. Like, I mean, it's against a Rattlegore, I mean, that's almost feels like a full counter, but you don't have much to deal with. You need to sit there and find a way to, you know, commit your deck to something. Because, I mean, I sit there, I talk to my guys at my school on campus about, you know, how to sit there and play with cards and how to utilize it. And, you know, when you're playing the likes of a World Kick Rogue, it may be flexible, but there's only so much that it can do. It's not the, you know, the end all be all. There's still, you have to have a preordained at the beginning of the match or adaptive over the course of the match, deciding what do I want to get out of this deck? How do I want to execute this? And what cards do I have in hand to kind of play with to find a way to capitalize my vision for it? So overall, you know, just being those situations that he was in, he had a much better chance to get it off against the Paladin than he did the Warrior, because when you're dealing with Warrior, I mean, there's just nothing you can do for the most part except for out-tempo him, which would have been great for Priest. But besides that, I mean, WUB just didn't have that preordained image for what Rogue could have been.
Yes. Yeah, no, and at the end of the game there, that's what we were saying. And once again, I'm just agreeing with you. I have nothing to add to this, I feel. I'm just agreeing with you. You're breaking it down very well. But yeah, at the end, that's just what it was. And there's no rehash it a couple of times. But But let's talk about the earlier games a little bit, because they went a little bit how we thought they would, and a little bit not how we thought they would. You were talking about how you really liked the priest deck, and we hadn't seen one. I hadn't seen one. They kept getting banned, but we saw it come out and we saw it play really well. What did you like seeing about that priest deck?
What I like about the priest deck is the potential it has at those later rounds. So we didn't get exactly a chance to see all those really influential cards like, Soul Mirror and, other things that, let me bring in the deck list just to sit there and have a couple that just, scream at me. When you had the likes of Soul Mirror, Murazon, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, you have Mind Flayer, Mind Render, all these cards to deal with that are so great and can influence the match so much. Paperninja was never really in that situation against that Highlander mage where he needed to consider throwing out big cards to switch to Shifted Battle, which is which is Highlander's biggest thing and why people love playing it so much. So, going forward, I did see it in week 1 with Paperninja, albeit I did see him throw down a couple of pretty influential cards. When it comes down to it, that mage matchup is just not good enough against the priest. If he'd sit there and opted possibly for paladin against the priest, you have a little more heals to buff out with it and kind of go back and forth overall. But when you're facing mage into it, it gets knocked out so quickly. It just destroys mage so quickly, and then we don't get a chance to see that matchup again. So, that's the biggest deal right there.